Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Innocent Kaoya from HiPipo. Is Sam in here? Sam, before we play this video, please join me for a few minutes. It's nice to see a number of you coming back here every other year and seeing the progress we've registered so far. Well done to the foundation team and to everyone. A big thanks to all those that support all this work we're doing, to the Gates Foundation, I nowadays call him King Miller because he's the king of this conversation. To the executive director, Paula, to Olivia, thank you so much for, I met her this year and she's been supporting us quite a lot. To Dr. Warren, to our partners, PSFU, Damali, Your Excellence, to everyone, to the team, the great team at HiPipo, to the team at Infitex, it's Infitex, right? Inclusive Financial Technology and Experts, right? I got it. Yeah, to everyone that was Mothersbox, to Cross Lake Technologies and everyone, thanks you all for supporting. Sam was the lead facilitator for the recently concluded Women in Fintech Hackathon. So before we play this video, it is 24 minutes and it's having 34 people speaking. So we cut them down into 6 thematic areas that I'm sure we all like. I'd request Sam to first say a word or two about the Women in Fintech Hackathon. I play the video first. Sam says I play the video. Thank you. And I hope I know how to do this here. Okay.
HiPipo is pleased to present 40 Days 40 Fintechs, an initiative under its Include Everyone program, as it continues to lead the way in advocacy for the creation and dissemination of technology that enables financial inclusivity. The 40 Days 40 Fintechs is shining a spotlight on those that are breaking down digital barriers and bringing millions more on the continent into the transactional space and transforming their lives for the better. 40 Days 40 Fintechs is presented in proud partnership with Cross Lake Technologies, Mothersbox, Modulo Foundation, Cyber POC Academy, and Level 1 Projects.
Very amazing how the industry has evolved over a very short period of time. One time we're thinking of running an initiative like 40 Days for the Fintechs. The other time, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, together with other partners, joined us to support this initiative. Before we know, we are telling stories of hundreds of fintechs that are transforming millions of lives using their innovations in financial technology.
As fintechs, it is about fast, secure, and self-service.
And the different players getting to appreciate the need for regulation, and for that reason, enabling regulation for digital financial services.
Jumo, as the service provider, is not regulated by Bank of Uganda. They are regulated by the microfinance institution. So the impact on the coming of the product to the market wasn't really directly facing Jumo. However, MTN, on the other hand, is regulated by BOE, the fintech. So there was a lot of reliance in waiting on either a letter of no objection to say, the product you're bringing in the market is fit for the market.
We have the National Payment Systems Act and supporting regulations. But I think that also the Bank of Uganda managed the process of these regulations and the act well.
The existence of the NPSA, the National Payment Systems Act, is a good one. The existence of the Data Protection and Privacy Act is a good one. The E-Signatures Act, the E-Transactions Act. So I think as a nation we have in a good space.
The fintech industry is ripe. It is growing at a fast pace, and it is trying to catch up with the industries like in South Africa Africa or Kenya and Nigeria that are a bit ahead. So with regulation, that increases the trust of the industry.
The regulator is very open to ideas, to discuss. They have said they will never stand on the way of innovation, and that's why you have, if you look at it, if you look at the number of fintechs that are being registered in Uganda, is above board.
The NPS Act, which brought a bit of standardization, which was wonderful, but it also raised the bar. Like, for example, there's now a financial bar that is required for you to operate.
If the fintechs are not regulated, it can create a chaos in longer run. So we support the drive that regulators are taking to make sure that the fintechs are regulated and proper KYCs and anti-money laundering steps are taken.
Regulations is what gives direction. It's what protects innovations.
We know everyone is trying. We know especially HiPipo and its partners are trying to lobby for a better environment and landscape.
How affordable is the regulation? Can everyone afford it? Can each and every single startup afford it?
How can we then reduce the KYC needed so that somebody who is transacting even less than 1 million Uganda shillings can do it quickly and easily?
When we're going through the NPS Act, they don't allow us to hold people's money for more than 48 hours, which I think is a good thing. So because people have expectations.
The nature of this, there's a lot of money involved, and these are unique products. It's important to protect consumers out there.
The requirements, they're so strict. If we could ease a little, you have to pay a lot of money.
Policies are not favoring us in the fintechs because we are new. The things we are doing are new. We are innovative.
They're too restrictive, and it's going to impact the overall landscape.
We need to look at cutting costs for the local industries because the foreign investors have the money.
I believe we also need to look at the regulator's side and how they are trying to create a favorable environment for all players.
They should set laws and regulations, or set of rules as they call it, for startups.
The level of confidence and trust is there because they have seen that we are actually being regulated.
Awareness and the transparency, that is what builds trust and confidence.
Especially in terms of recovery and in adherence to KYC.
They must be in a way regulated, because if you don't, then everybody will do whatever they feel like.
I believe regulation should be eased for people like us who are studying.
The World Bank Fintech states it that Ugandan population has more women than men. But this is also common in many other sub-Saharan African countries and broadly around Africa. But it's also sad that the women are the most unbanked within our region.
Women are encouraged to take up digital financial services.
Whatever role it is, go on. That way you can get to the top.
Once you start bringing them into the businesses which are digitally driven, then it will also help us to drive more digital inclusiveness for these women.
When women participate in the financial inclusion, they provide more to their families.
Our sisters out there have their fears. Whether founded or unfounded, they are fears. But it's us who have to come out and encourage them.
The design process of these financial services must include the very people that are excluded.
For all my services, or for whatever I develop, there must be a percentage that's deliberately being driven to encourage women to use that service.
Globally, everyone is trying to do something with that. Yeah, right now, my company does head hunting for Microsoft, Johnson & Johnson. They've had to set a whole structure of diversity and inclusion.
I personally want to think that actually, with the introduction of fintechs, naturally all genders have been included.
We need women who are already in the space to take the forefront and invite other ladies into the space.
Women are maybe people who are more likely to save and keep their money in an account for a longer period than a guy. How can we then incentivize them to, put their money there and keep it and make it make financial sense?
Like how you walk into a restaurant and everyone is really happy to see you and you've come to take a meal. The banks should copy.
Understanding the customer as a first point is always very important.
If women are brought on board and of course time taken for them to be taught these particular financial principles, it will be a good start. I call upon fintechs, especially those in Uganda, to have more fintechies that are female.
From the word go, when you're young, when you're growing up, when you're choosing your career, you're going to find that certain careers have already been named or they have already been considered to be male-dominated.
This is something that has been created for quite some time, so it's not going to be very quick and like rapid that will get them involved.
The men are becoming champions on their own. They have understood after the pandemic that the women need to also go and help. They're no longer just, I'm the man, stay home.
ESL application, village lending and savings applications, and that usually has 90% women.
The market being female dominated by women, I believe is going to be first of all good enough to service.
I've worked for 2 companies now, tech companies, and in both those companies, women were the majority in the company. But then the difference is the technology department would be mostly male dominated.
We can improve on the women by educating them at an early stage, right from like primary and secondary.
If we are thinking of fintech solutions, we should stop thinking about the average woman like me and start thinking of the problems that are facing the woman at the bottom of the pyramid.
We need to refine the purpose of organizations, not just to make money, and ultimately for us to be able to understand that sustainable value and sustainable business thrives on the confidence and trust of the person being served.
If me in Kampala can find someone who is in Karamoja, because we have a similar bespoke experience that is digital, then there will be trust, then there will be increased usage.
It starts with us, within the code, within the development that we make, we include security.
The good fintech, is as good as its maker.
Trust is primarily built by an entity delivering on what it has said it will deliver on. So for example, when mobile money first came up, there were a lot of trust issues. But more and more, as it showed that as you use the service, your money will actually get to the intended recipient faster, and that started to build the trust in the service.
When you trust mobile money today, you trust mobile money because when you put your money there, when you want it, you can get it. That is the most important thing.
Improving trust for anything requires communication. So we need to have more awareness of what digital is capable.
We know that everyone who has a national ID or everyone who has a phone, they have a national ID. So we can at least start tracking there. If you can track, that means you can trust.
Giving assurances to our customers that the way we're storing your data is following, 1, the regulations, but 2, also industry standards.
If we were sharing all that information, let's say like the agency banking, if they were using, let's say, the same POS machines, it becomes cheaper.
The systems that have come in before, people have that mindset about them, about losing their cash.
Many people that I'm dealing with in my target audience are the kind that take long to trust. They're the kind that take long to even get confident to come to your space. You give them an app, they refuse to use it. You give them a USSD code, they refuse to use it.
If you want to extend the banking service into the villages deep there, you don't need to carry your new staff, new employees from, for example, Kampala down to the village. These are guys that are not known to anybody in the community.
The customer is transacting, they need to be ensured that their transactions are safe. Even the fintechs who are holding a lot of this information and the financial transaction need to ensure that their data is very well set.
I think awareness is a good place to start. Having all this communication really to inform people, how very, very important it is for them to protect.
Cybersecurity is very important in the fintech world because otherwise customers are not going to trust us. They're going to be like, no, I'll stick to the old version of keeping my thing at home under my bed.
What is innovation without APIs? And what is fintech without integrations and aggregation of information and data?
The word open for a simpler interpretation, it could mean something that you can access over the internet.
If we do not open our infrastructure to other services, this is what is going to happen. And one of the things will start with the banks. You will remain with inactive accounts. You have millions of accounts but inactive. Why? Because the customer has moved on.
As a fintech provider, for us to scale, we need to connect to several providers, starting from banks, financial institutions to the mobile operators, not in just one country but also several countries. For that to happen, a standard set of API is very critical.
The level 1 project initiated over 5 years ago was looking at what do we do to ensure that the ecosystem can be effective at scale. For the 7 fintechs here, how do you make the integration into an ecosystem as light as possible?
Fintechs that are doing the aggregation are the enablers. There is no mobile money today that can scale without that part of enablement, because these guys are connecting now you to the last mile, joining the ecosystems, different ecosystems, and this is playing a big role in the financial sector.
A basic thing like credit scoring. You have so many people who don't have access to credit facilities because their data is locked up in a certain company. But if that data is made available under proper regulatory aspects to other entities that can deliver credit at cheaper than other entities.
The big brands, the giants, need to affiliate with companies which are building open ecosystems and give support and endorsement that they really work.
Our API is available across Africa. If you're a fintech here and you want to go to Nigeria, to Cameroon, to Liberia, to Guinea-Bissau, all these are operating countries. If you want to go and do a service there, we make it easy for you.
This allows different sectors to loop into different systems, because system needs to communicate.
Without it necessarily having to be, let's say, a customer of that bank, but if they have your credit, so it goes back to the APIs, you should be able to reach out to all those banks.
The modular loop technology is based on an open API specification. What that means is that today, if you want to understand modular loop, all you do, go to the internet, put modular loop, you find a specification, go and deploy.
One can easily plug in to the other, and it helps with better transactions and better service delivery for the end user.
Open API is linked to open source, right? All the technologies that we build, we are building them with open source technologies.
I want us as fintechs to be able to even deal with each other. If I want to do money transfers to a particular country that I'm not yet in, can I use a third party to help me with that?
They have to understand the operation of these particular APIs. Someone has to take an initiative to learn.
The GSMA has worked on an API specification since 2006. This API specification is to help us harmonize the APIs.
We actually provide open APIs to the young players. We go in universities and schools. People who have small applications, they connect to us.
Most startups are actually bootstrapping, working with a shoestrings budget. So it will help us lower the cost of setup.
For MTN did open APIs, like the integration process for you to integrate to mobile money. For now, like aggregators, we're talking like five months.
APIs help us interact with the different financial institutions out there.
If you can't find good documentation about an API, it will be very hard for you to use it.
No matter what regulation that there may be, whether we are supposed to have on-site cloud services or off-site, what would fintech be without cloud technology?
What makes a fintech is being able to use the cloud computing technologies to leverage their business. And we know that with cloud, you're able to serve 24/7 to all your customers, regardless of where their location is.
I don't even think an open API can work without cloud computing in today's environment. Yeah. So we need to have more localized cloud data centers which comply with the local regulation.
How beautiful would it be to send money to your grandmother and she sends you a message back after 15 seconds confirming that they received their money? And that is what we're referring to as instant and inclusive payment systems, or fast payments, or what we call real-time payments.
We are not yet at the level of deploying an interoperable switch. So we need to advance on this level, and modular loop open APIs would be fundamental in achieving this.
In Kenya, there is a drive to have an instant settlement between banks to banks and providers, which is driven through the Kenya Bankers Association. So I think a central regulatory body, once it starts playing a role, it becomes easier for everyone to connect there and do the instant settlement.
I deal with people who need their money there and there. Paid instant.
Experience is key. When you build a product, you want your customer to like it, you want your customer to appreciate it. So when it's instant and it serves them.
Why aren't most of our customers using these instant payment services? Primarily because there's a bit of no trust.
We have moved into an age where everything needs to be as fast, as instant as possible. When you go and deposit your money, you want instant response.
To be inclusive, you need to really make it very, very simple and user-friendly.
If I tell you, hi, I've sent you your money, and you check your phone and your money is there, like mobile money, somebody knows that if I don't get the mobile money now, when I did the transaction, there's an issue.
The value that you add to the customer when they receive their money, it's just enough.
There's a long process that happens when you work with bank X, bank Y, the transactions that go on, all that is time wasted.
We're all about making the customer happy, and so options and the instancy is all relevant.
If my goal is to have inclusive payments and make sure that everyone can afford this service and everything, but how relevant is it to their lifestyles?
To improve our economy, we need people to be paid instantly. As long as there's lag in payment, the economy also crumbles.
Person who has a kaduka somewhere, right? You can't tell them you're going to give them their money in 2 days, in 3 days. Solutions that like USSD are very vital.
We want instant things right now. This is an instant world. So if you can cut the time down that we can do transactions and send out and emit funds and all that, it will help a lot.
The initiative 40 Days for the Fintechs would never have happened and would never be successful without the generous support of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and our partners, Moja Loop Foundation, Level 1 Project, Modus Box, Cross-Lake Technologies, Cyber PLC, and all the fintechs that participate every year that we regard to as our esteemed partners.
40 Days, 40 Fintechs provide a structured framework for reflection that that in this period of the year, I will be able to actually have a more formal moment to reflect on what I am actually doing. Whose life am I impacting?
HiPipo is bringing together the government, the big players in the private sector to meet with the fintechs.
This is the most effective convergence that we've ever been with.
40 Days, 40 Fintechs brings together fintechs that have products and services across the board, and they are able to interrelate, cooperate, form partnerships, and grow their businesses.
40 Days, 40 Fintechs. I personally, it's the key.
It's a wonderful initiative all round that benefits so many players in so many ways.
40 Days for the Fintechs, a very, very important initiative by whoever came up with it.
The engagements that you create, the stakeholders that you bring on board, these conversations that you foster will determine the future of fintech in Uganda. And now you're talking about beyond Uganda, East Africa. And actually, in my prediction, probably in 2 years, it will be 40 Days, 40 Fintechs for Africa.
There's no better player or enabler today that is championing fintechs like HiPipo is doing.
We are grateful and happy that we're being highlighted as a reputable player in the fintech sector. But then I also think it has helped me as an individual learn about other companies in East Africa that are actually also participating and are doing great things.
The 40 Days, 40 Fintechs helps to actually highlight the wonderful work that is actually happening in connecting the rural economy to the urban and have a more equitable and inclusive economy.
It is one of those things that swept me off my feet because, getting to know different fintechs that are out there, at first you're thinking, well, we're probably very few, but when you get to watch the videos and get to know what is happening, there are so many fintechs.
One of the only entities that have really far reached and are trying to reach the person at the bottom of the pyramid has been HiPipo.
I must credit HiPipo for having such a unique event, an event that has gone a long way in creating awareness.
The 40 Days and 40 Fintechs initiative is very critical in actually shaping where the fintech ecosystem is going.
I'm very appreciative of the fact that they saw me worthy to be on such a huge platform with key industry players.
It has given us a platform to be out there and build more confidence.
I like the fact that they bring on government stakeholders, NITA, they bring on the ministers and such that they understand.
40 Days, 40 Fintechs is something that I think we are actually supposed to have like 3 in a year because it empowers a startup from almost zero to something that people can now deal with.
It's a very, very great initiative. It's very, very wonderful. And that's why I think it has actually received a lot of success.
Opened up the fintech world. I think since they started holding it from season 1, I think we've made so many contacts, of which we are helping each other in the fintech world.
First of all, very happy with this. Too happy. It has exposed us to so many opportunities. I've had phone calls.
We appreciate the 40 days, 40 fintechs.
An amazing thing for us, the startups in Uganda.
40 days, 40 fintechs and HiPipo have become our partners, and they are spearheading this growth or this area like no other.
I would urge all those fintechs around the country to join the initiative, because we all need it.
40 days, 40 fintechs will help many of these fintechs to really shine.
40 days for fintech and some of the similar initiatives in the past, they inspire.
40 days, 40 fintechs is actually telling the people in school who are actually coding right now or learning how to code that actually it can be done.
First time that I heard about 40 days, 40 fintechs, I was like, yo, this is something that we need as an African.
40 days, 40 fintechs. Actually, we small startup, we need platforms and airtime. So what 40 days, 40 fintechs does is awesome.
40 Days 40 Fintechs is presented in proud partnership with Crossleg Technologies, Modus Box, Mojaloop Foundation, Cyber POC Academy, and Level 1 Projects. HiPipo is pleased to present 40 Days 40 Fintechs, an initiative under its Include Everyone program, as it continues to lead the way in advocacy for the creation and dissemination of technology that enables
Sam, please, for 2 minutes.
Thank you. I don't know if that 2 minutes is for the entire presentation, but I'll keep it brief. My name is Samuel Kumari. Sam, thank you, Innocent, for. I'm happy to hear you remember what Infotech stands for. It's great to be part of the group working towards financial inclusion. And thank you, Gates Foundation. I'll keep it short to focus on my experience in Uganda, the Fintech Hackathon. These points might be disjointed, but for the sake of brevity, a lot of studies that FSD and IMF, World Bank did, I think they all agree on one number, that in Uganda, less than 60% of the population has access to decent or good financial services. And when we enter the room for the Women in Fintech Hackathon, I felt like we are seeing warriors from various companies and individuals who are passionate about fighting that. And I think our goal here is to support them. We talked about level 1 principles. Our goal is to have a financial inclusive solution like Mojaloop in Uganda. And we have, in a way, I felt like the 20 odd teams, they're developing apps for land management, rent management, maternity, or pregnant mothers. There were even apps for beauty. So the hackathon was based on third-party based solutions. A lot of fintechs were providing their solutions. There were startups there and individuals. I think as a Mojaloop community, we need to support them in their efforts. And regarding other aspects, we have people like Innocent, a future Lord Mayor of Kampala, and others, I'm sure from Mojaloop Foundation and even Infotech will support them. They covered the level 1 principles and the rails needed. I had the honor of talking through some of the hub operations and Mojaloop technology side of things and helping them integrate with the sandbox. Thank you everyone for supporting, and yeah, it was really humbling to see things in action. Thank you, Innocent, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you.